to another First Class Cricket Academy podcast. Today, I'm as usual joined alongside Raj, head of First Class Cricket, and Darren and Theo, who both coach at First Class Cricket. We have two special guests joining us today. We have ex-under-19 England bowler Abi Sakande, and also ex-Sussex county cricket player. How are you, Abi?
Oh, thanks. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. And then we're also joined by Fynn Hudson Prentice, who is a current First Class Cricket player, and he plays for Derbyshire. How are we, Fynn?
Hey guys, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Hi Abby, hi Fynn. I wonder if you could tell us something about your initial journey in cricket and at what age and what decided that cricket was going to be something serious in your life.
Go for it, Abs.
Sure. So for me, there was kind of a quite specific point where I went from playing cricket for fun, which is just something I did in the summers as a summer sport like the others. And that was when I basically got into the England under-16s kind of like age group after the Bunbury Festival. Prior to that point, I had played county cricket for a couple of years. I was in the under-12s, I think my first year in Sussex age group, under-12s, under-13s, under-14s. And all of that time, I had just enjoyed my cricket and happened to be good at it, good enough to get picked into subsequent teams. But I was kind of lucky, I guess, in that I enjoyed learning, but I was never felt under any pressure compared to maybe some of the boys around me whose parents were desperate for them to play, or themselves they were desperate already to play as professional careers. So I think I stood out a little bit in a way. And looking back on it now, I'm quite glad that, for example, when I reflect on my experience at the Bunbury Festival compared to maybe some of the others around me, for me, I just took everything in my stride and enjoyed the fact that I got to go and play a tournament of cricket. And if I did well, I was excited by that idea. I never really thought of this is my one chance or whatever to make a difference. In hindsight, the fact that I got selected for this England development program off the back of it, where we all went to a meeting up at Loughborough and we sat down and they invited our parents and they said, we think your sons could potentially be future international cricketers. This is what we expect of them, blah blah blah. I kind of sat there with my parents kind of looking around being like, are they talking about me? Like, and my parents were like, oh, because my parents were both quite academic, and they'd always that had always been kind of the direction I'd envisioned myself going in. So that was quite a specific point. And after that point, I really, my mindset and my approach and my everything changed. It became very much like cricket is what I'm going to take very seriously. Spending a lot more time in the winters playing cricket instead of other sports. But the other thing I would say is that I think it is valuable to have other sports in your background, especially as a bowler, but as a general cricketer, to play all the different sports you can, because I think you learn how to learn. You learn all these different body skills, proprioception, all these things that stay in your muscle memory, that when you actually apply them to trying to play cricket, especially at a higher level where it's not just, not always just about batting and bowling, but sometimes they want to improve your 1%ers in terms of, your fielding and your athleticism, all of those things. That's where the other sports, I think, really, really make a difference. But yeah, that's about it for me.
Thanks very much. How about you, Fynn?
Yeah, I remember obviously playing a lot of cricket when I was younger, but I was massively into football when I first started playing cricket. And I think that sort of changed a little bit when I got to about when I moved from Gordon Park and I changed over and went to St Bede's, where it was called St Bede's back then, called Bede's now. And I was playing, obviously, seeing Raj, seeing Alan Wells, seeing other coaches, Tim Van Noort was another one, and then on the back of that, sort of moving schools and then getting a bit more coaching. I sort of my under 14 season, I scored 3 back-to-back hundreds in age group cricket in the first 3 games, and that was sort of the moment that Sussex sort of turned around and they offered me an academy deal at the end of that season. I was playing under 17s cricket and I made my second team debut, and that was sort of the moment I sort of sat down and thought, I want to play professional cricket. Before then, I hadn't really thought about it, to be honest. It was more just like play cricket, enjoy it. Obviously, it was something I was good at because I was playing county rep stuff, but yeah, I think that was the big moment. It sort of changed for me and changed into me wanting to play it as a career rather than just as a hobby.
Thanks very much. And you also touched on 3 of your coaches that you had when you were younger. The second question I'd like to ask you both is what sort of coaching you received when you were younger and how did it help you?
Do you want to carry on? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah, it was one of those things from a young age, really. Like when you join up with the Sussex age groups, like obviously Abi would have got in very young as well, but at the age of sort of 9, 10, you're getting coaching pretty much 2 days a week, which was pretty, like at that age is obviously very early. You don't know what you want and how far you want to go in the sport. But I think sort of, as I referred to earlier, the sort of age group 13s and 14s is when I started to really sort of get into it. And I saw Raj quite a bit one-to-one. I was seeing other coaches one-to-one. And then obviously when you get onto the academy, you see a lot more coaches one-to-one. You get more time to spend with each coach and decide how you're going to go about certain process goals and sort of working out where you want to get to. There's loads of conversations and different things you have, like obviously at that stage. But trying to just work out the basic fundamentals really, like at that age, you want to be really strong fundamentally. Are you good at playing a length ball and off stump? Can you move your feet forward and back? With bowling, are you driving everything towards the target? Have you got a consistent action? Those sort of things that you're trying to just fundamentally drill in. Those are sort of the key points that I pick up from that age. And then obviously when you get older and more consistent with those things, you can then start changing it to obviously a lot more skills-based stuff. But yeah, there's sort of things that I pick up most is from doing that coaching is trying to build consistency. And then from there, you can sort of have a foundation and build upwards.
Yeah, I think, similar to what Fynn mentioned about the early years, I think you have quite a lot of different influences. We got school coaches, club coaches. I remember one particularly who got me into cricket was Mark Lawrence, who, insisted to my parents that, it was worth nagging them to drag me along to Linfield Cricket Club where I started off playing. And I think a lot of my coaching came from basically playing every single break time in the playground with a bunch of my friends who, by the age of 14, I think about half of my school side was made up the kind of the Sussex under 14 side, just because we, from the ages of about 9, 10 years old, had spent so much time just playing together. So there was a huge element of just like learning between us. And then I started coaching with Raj again, probably around similar age to Fynn, around 13, 14. Spent a lot of hours, working in the Worth Hall, and Raj was, really there to push us, and to try and face those 80-mile-an-hour short deliveries, and really open our eyes to what the next level could look like, which is interesting because I think in reflection, probably the next time I did that in any serious way was probably not until I got onto maybe Sussex Academy or the England development program. So, the fact that I'd been exposed to it, 2 or 3 years before, was helpful in the fact that some of the players, the batsmen had all probably been through that, but the bowlers probably hadn't so much. So it helped me a little bit. But the other coach who I'd say made a big difference between was Nick Tester at Ardingly, because he committed so many hours of his own kind of free will, to, especially when I had individual goals, to with trying to make sure that I, progressed through with England stuff, that I was having to, they wanted you to do 15 hours a week of cricket-related activities outside of your school hours, which would have been a real challenge to organise on my own, and having kind of him to help sort out, Sunday mornings and Tuesday evenings and all of this stuff was a massive help for me for those few years as I finished school.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
I just asked both of you. Obviously, this game requires a massive amount of time commitment, and you were both at school at that point. How did you actually manage your time?
Not very well, as you can tell. Yeah, I mean, I have talked about this before. Like, time management is honestly, it's the one thing that you can do if you have a goal and you want to get closer towards it, it's like the one thing that anybody can do. And it's not hard. You just have to sit down and decide how much you're willing to invest in it. What is hard is deciding how much you're willing to invest in it as compared to the sacrifice of you're making compared to the other things that you would be doing. And that's where it starts to become challenging. I think when you're younger, because it's fun, and when I'm saying you're kind of 10, 11, 12, you just end up you choose to do cricket almost by default because you're seeing your friends and it's just something to do. It's just good fun. But as you only really start having to think about planning your time probably as you come in towards those GCSE type years where you start 14, 15, 16, and from school there comes a bit of expectation that you start to manage your homework, manage your own time better. And just go home in the afternoon and just play games all day. You have to actually do your homeworks if you want to achieve anything at school. It's the same type of thing if you want to go for parties on the weekend with your friends. You actually have to start organising and planning them yourself. Your parents stop just making decisions for you. So it comes around that time where I think people start to realise that time management is really just a case of setting priorities in the first place, and then deciding what is, if it's important to you, you have to be willing to sacrifice something else in order to get there. It does help when you've got people to support you. And the other thing I found with time management is that I knew very little about it. I was quite reliant, and I didn't realize how reliant I was until I started handling everything late, turning up for everything late. And just because I had so many things on my plate, I was very much and I wasn't really thinking about it. And I think I lent on people around me too much, but ask for help for people around you and they will help you organize. And if you tell them this is my priority, how can I spend more time doing this? I want to play more cricket. How can I spend more time playing cricket? Then I think your parents or or maybe I don't know, some adults around you who rely on me, whether maybe even people involved in cricket, who can help have that conversation, because I think sometimes people fall down the gap of thinking it will just happen by somebody else will tell you to be here enough times and then it will just happen like that. And after a certain point, there's only so much that other people can put on a plate for you to actually achieve progress. After a certain point, it really has to be your own individual desire that drives you towards your goals.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it's a strange one because obviously at that time where you start to realise that you want it to happen as a profession, obviously, as Abi said, you need to drop other things to focus on it. But yeah, I remember being at school and it was sort of when I was 15, 16, and you'd spend the whole day doing lessons and it'd get to about 2:30, and that'd be the time where you could hang out with your mates and go to activities and play football or whatever and play cricket in the nets and stuff, and you hang out with your friends after in that period. But that was a time where I started anyway, having to leave school and then drive down to Sussex or get a taxi from school to Sussex. So you'd spend all day in your lessons, then the time where you'd actually get to spend it with your friends and activities got taken away, which is obviously fantastic. You have to do that. It's part of the journey. If you want to make it, you got to spend the hours to get better. You're not going to get better by just playing a game on a weekend. It doesn't happen like that. Unfortunately, I wish it did. But yeah, it depends. As Abi said, it depends how much you want to put into it. If you want it enough, then you'll find hours to put into it anyway. Whether that be waking up early and doing it in the morning, whether that be literally just waking up, looking at some notes that you've written down, some processes or some goals, just spending an extra 10 minutes doing that, or whether that's doing it after school or after your day's work or whatever. If you want to look at things or go for a run as an evening or whatever, it's all dependent on you really. As Abi said, there's only so much people can tell you that you need to do before it actually sinks in and you have to start doing it. Yeah, it can be detrimental. I lost quite a few of my friend group. Not so much like my close friend group, but people who I was friends with at school who would invite you to things and say, do you want to come out this Saturday? We've got a party, or let's meet up on this Thursday night. And I'd be like, I've got training tomorrow. I can't go, or I can't do that. And I think that's obviously something you have to accept at that age, is how much do you want it? Do you want to have friends for the next 2 years and end up losing your career, or do you want to try and make it for these 2 years and work really hard with the detriment of potentially losing a few outside mates, but then having a great career? Like it's a choice. It's the same as anything. Do you want to work hard for this period of time, or do you want to just stagnate and have fun while it lasts? Like it's a thing that you got to sort of drill into yourself. Like, how much do you want it? And if you're willing to sacrifice, then you'll get to where you want to be.
And can I just add to that, which is I was listening to a talk by like an Olympian hockey player who got asked this question by some school students. They're probably 15, 16 years old, and thought they gave a really good answer, which is that you do lose out while you're at school, and you always feel the pain of missing out. You feel like you don't have the strong relationship with your friends, and you think, there's better things I could be doing. I wish I could go to all the parties. But then you realize as you get older and you go to kind of that university age, or even if you don't go to university and get into your 20s, you look back and you go, actually, you have the rest of your life for having parties, and the friends that you have the parties with will also be there. And when you're 25, you're probably having the same kind of parties as when you were like 17. You're not really so you've got all of those years to kind of catch up. And if they're your friends like when you're 25 and you manage to maintain them from school years, they'll probably still be your friends when you're 35. So you might feel like it's like a sacrifice now, but what you're really sacrificing the other way is the chance to have a career. And you won't lose your friends. The ones who matter to you, they won't disappear. So some see it as like a sacrifice, because that's the short-term mindset of like a teenager. You're like, it's the end of the world if I don't get to go to this party on a Saturday night. Like, life sucks. And you look at the slightly longer-term perspective, you can actually have those relationships. You're not gonna miss out on your life opportunities for socialize and have friends, because you're taking an opportunity-based sport. And on the flip side, if you're one of your mates who had an opportunity to have a professional career, or who didn't have the same opportunity as you to have a professional career, what would they be choosing? Would they be choosing to go, to go out and party? Because everyone can do that. Not everyone has the option to go and have a professional sports career.
It's a very, very fine balance, isn't it? So you need to have the times to see your friends and have fun, but you also need to realise when it's the right time, when it isn't. I think I've struggled with that in the past, but slow realization.
You guys absolutely nailed it. And so literally your priorities become schoolwork 1, cricket 2, social life 3.
Yeah.
So that's how it happens. And coming from a completely different background, one thing which I experienced growing up was we didn't have any peer pressure as such that I had to go to a party, or if we were sacrificing that, it was cool with the friends because they knew that he's trying to make it into cricket. But I find that thought process is not very much present when you come to England, because at that age, most people think, oh, you're such a bore, you're not hanging around with me. As Fynn said, after your school, you're going down to Sussex for training, or you're not going to someone's house party. So there's a bit of a challenge in that here. And the other thing that you mentioned is you have to find the time. I remember doing sessions with Theo at 7 o'clock in the morning, when he just got up, I think at about 5 to 7 or 10 to 7. And he came down and he used to hit balls early morning. But that's something what youngsters need to understand, and more so their parents, because most parents don't understand that you don't become a cricketer by practicing 1 day a week or 2 days a week. That's the most important part.
Well, like Fynn said, 1 game on a Saturday.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. And most parents do not have any idea because they haven't played the game. So that's where it is really important that people understand.
Also, sorry, Raj, just like when you listen to people talking, especially when you play club cricket on a Saturday and you hear people say, I don't know why I'm not getting any runs. Like, did you go to training on Thursday? No. What did you do that was any different to last week? Oh, I went out last night and had 10 pints. So
Yeah.
how'd you expect to turn up on a Saturday morning and score 100 every week? Like everyone just assumes like, oh yeah, next week will be different because I've done nothing. Like it's the same as life. Like when you're at work, if you have a bad week, like you don't get the sales or something on a Friday afternoon, then what do you do from Monday to Thursday the next week? Yeah, I won't go to work this week. I'll just try and get it all sorted out on the last day. Like it doesn't work like that. Like
the best comment was the guy to India. We organize these tours to India to train and or play matches, and this guy was a batsman and he bowled leg spin. So he went there, he batted, and then he came on to bowl his leg spin. And the guy who was coaching in that place, he straight away, after 3 balls, he just took him to the side net, put a marker down, and he said, "You need to do some spot bowling." Right. This guy was 15 at that point, 15, 16. And he looked at him and he said, "I want to bowl in the net." And he said, "No, you're not good enough at the moment to bowl into the nets, because if you bowl in the nets, the batsman is not going to get any practice." And he made him bowl for 1.5 hours at a mark, right? And then he asked him, "How many days do you bowl in your daily routine?" And he said, "I bowl 1 day a week." He said, 1 day a week, and you want to become a cricketer? He said, "People rest 1 day a week. Your dad doesn't go to work 1 day a week. Your dad goes to work 5 or 6 days a week." You got to understand that. And that is something a lot of people who haven't actually played the game don't get it, that it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
I mean, just take
you feel
it.
rusty if you bat once a week. You feel when you go back and hit again, you're like, wow, what's this? You forget everything you've done before.
Exactly. I mean, I was 18, something like that. We have a festival in Calcutta called the Durga Puja, which is like Christmas here. It's absolutely party time. So what our schedule was, we used to get to practice in the morning at 7, 10:30, 11 practice used to finish, and the rest of the day was party. Okay. So I remember one day at 10:30, I picked up my bag and I was going out. So the coach stopped me and he said, "Come here, have a drink with me." And he bought me a cup of tea and he said, "So what's plans then?" And I said, "This is the plan for the day." And he said to me, "What do you want to do in life?" So I said, "I want to play cricket." He said, "Okay." Then he goes, "Who do you think are the best 15 players in the country at the moment?" So I said, "Obvious, there's an Indian side." He said, "And if the Indian side is the best 15, how many hours do you think the top order is practicing at the moment?" So I said, 4 to 6. He said, "Yeah, they are the best and they are practicing 4 to 6. You are nowhere near the best and you're going home after 3. So how is it that you're going to have a chance to get anywhere near?" So that conversation actually opened my eyes. I said, right, he makes a lot of sense, this, because why is at that point, whoever it was in the Indian top order, why are they working more than me? And similarly,
further ahead.
yeah, similarly, you see people like Joe Root, the amount of work they're doing at the top of their game. So obviously a youngster needs to do more. And so, yeah, really
You
good.
guys have both mentioned people that have influenced your cricketing careers. But what would you say the best piece of advice you've received from someone from when you started up till now?
Great question.
That's a tough one. I have to give us a minute.
I think I think for me, like it came quite late. It came a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, really, and it was more based around. It wasn't really based around cricket. It was more about outside of cricket. It was with Steve Kirby, and he just sort of. I was sitting down with him having a beer at the end of the season. I'd had a terrible first season on the MCC Young Cricketers. It was after I got released by Sussex. Good couple of years after that, and I was in the process of trying to get back into county cricket. And he was just like, "Do you have anything on like outside of cricket?" And I was just like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Do you have anything that you focus on like outside of the game?" And I was like, "Not really." Like I was just like so solely focused on playing cricket at that point. Like I didn't go to uni because Sussex signed me when I was 18 and sort of alluded to the fact they wanted me to go overseas and play in Australia and stuff. And so I never really got an extracurricular. I never really went to uni. I was going to go to uni, but didn't go. I then didn't study anything when I was at Sussex. It wasn't like I was looking on the outside. I was so solely like focused on straight down the line cricket. Because as many people know, it's quite a dangerous path. Sometimes it works out, but it's also a bit dangerous if things go wrong. I don't have the academic backing, or I don't have a hobby or a job that I can fall into afterwards. I don't have any qualifications. So he just said, what's your plan after cricket, or what's your plan if you don't make it? And I didn't have one. And he said, well, your game will improve if you have ulterior focuses. If you have something that you can look at on the outside and get your head away from the game, then you'll ultimately improve your cricket, because when you go and play cricket, it'll be fun and you'll be enjoying what you're doing rather than taking it as like, I need to do this. He said your mindset will change. And he said a lot about cricket is obviously mentality. And if you're in it and if you're 100% focused on one thing, like if that goes wrong, then that'll be the end of your world. And that'll break you and you won't want to come back from it. But if you have something that's there for you on the outside, if you have something, whether that be running or cooking or something small and stupid, and you think that's like a normal thing that people do every day, or like studying or going to university. If you have those things,
golf for you, Fynn.
Golf, yeah. Like if you have things on the outside that you're interested in and you take an interest in, then you're obviously ultimately you won't have as much pressure on your cricket performance. And then that year I ended up getting signed by Derbyshire the next season because I had many other hobbies that I was focusing on, and just thought there's no pressure on this. Like if I don't make it, I don't make it. That's probably the best conversation I've had with someone. It's probably that moment was sort of the realization, I think, rather than putting myself under a lot of pressure, which I had done for years. Was just like I'd always been like, people tell you you're good at cricket, you can make it, but it's a different mindset when you're not fully 100% focusing on just that, and there's other things around that can keep you entertained.
Wait, Fynn, one quick thing. You were saying that like, so you have to make. So obviously you didn't go to uni and stuff like that. Did you have that extra pressure going, I haven't got anything to go and do? I'm going with Sussex. I've been released from Sussex. Now I haven't got a job. Haven't got anything to pursue. So what do I do?
Yeah, I hated cricket, to be honest. At that stage when I got released, I absolutely hated it. It was just like I wasn't enjoying my time at Sussex. They messed me around a little bit towards the back end of my contract there. Got told false truths quite a lot, and ultimately it ended up screwing me over a little bit. Like if they'd have told me from the off, like you're in risk of losing a contract, I think it would have been a little bit different. And I probably would have looked at doing other things on the side, but like that's how sport works. Unfortunately, they don't come up to you and say, "Oh, by the way, like go and look elsewhere." Like go and look to do something else. Like it doesn't work like that. Same as any job. I fell out of love with it massively at that time, and I didn't have anything to fall back on, which was probably the reason why I ended up hating it so much, because I'd put all my eggs in one basket, and then that basket was dropped on the floor and stamped on a few times. And yeah, I ended up just going over to Australia because I already had that lined up, and just played some club cricket and worked as a gardener like for 6 months, because that was a job that didn't need any qualifications. So it was a horrible time. Like I did put too much pressure on myself because I didn't have anything on the outside, but Yeah, looking back on it, if you're 18, 19, I'd definitely recommend going to university alongside playing cricket. Or just having, if you're obviously like there's players who are exceptionally good, but even they'll have things that they focus on outside of cricket. Like there'll definitely be other things that people are solely focused on that aren't just playing international cricket or getting to wherever you want to be. Like there'll be things that people focus on. So I'd recommend doing that.
Absolutely. Agree with you there. And even if you look now at the kind of the professional teams in the England level, you know, like lots of those guys have got their families that they focus on. Lots of the guys have got, you know, out there, they prioritize making sure that to look after your long-term mental health and well-being as a cricketer, you kind of almost like go and find something that there is outside of the game, because it is the type of game which you spend so much time thinking about it when you're not playing it, and when you are playing it, you spend so much time thinking about it that it really can get in your head. And if that starts to affect all your other relationships in your life and all of that type of stuff, that's where it starts to become unhealthy and vicious cycles of, you know, like stress and worry and then bad performance and then more stress and then more worry. All of those things can start to build up on someone. So it's really important for someone's, you know, overall life, you know, balance to have other things that they can focus on, because ultimately we look at the best players in the world who perform under the highest pressure that anyone's been under, and we go, how do they do it? You know, how do you bowl a super over in the World Cup final and look relaxed, and like they play like they were in their backyard playing with their mates, you know, at school, like they're like, you know, but it's the ability to play like you're not under pressure, which is like the biggest mental strength which you want to see in the top level cricketers. But yeah, so my piece of advice, I'm probably going to go with two. One which is really straightforward, which I think you could always think about at any point in your life and career, is to keep it simple, which I got told by one of my I probably got told it at many different points by many coaches, but I remember my England under 16 head coach was from South Africa, and he just said keep it simple. He looked at me particularly, and I think I'm someone who's very prone to overcomplicating things, and just said, cricket is a simple game, don't overcomplicate it. You know, I think Raj just said it many times as well, like keep it simple. And then the other piece of advice, which is more to do with like how I evaluated, like my mental processes, the way I looked at the game, which is just a conversation with one of my bowling coaches when I was at Sussex, Johnny Lou. And he was just asking, like, how do I reflect after I bowled a ball? What do I think about it? Like, not in a judgmental way, but what do I think about it? And it revealed to me that I had such a like kind of either like ticking a box, like I executed exactly what I wanted to do, or anything else was like a cross for me. And that basically meant that in a spell of like 30 balls, I'd maybe get like 2 that were exactly the ball that I wanted them to be. So for my mindset, I was always beating myself up, and I was always like thinking, even if I bowled a perfectly good ball that was like, you know, back of the length, top of off stump, but really I had been trying to bowl middle stump, I was like, damn it, got it wrong. You know, or if I bowled fourth stump, I was like, no, not good enough. And that, because that meant that every time I bowled a ball, I think, okay, got it wrong, come back to my mark. I'm thinking, how can I improve on, or how can I get better than, or, you know, that previous ball, instead of trusting that what I was doing was generally doing the right thing. I was too perfectionist about my approach, and I didn't realize that was all just going on in my head without me even noticing it. So what it was doing was damaging my ability to have consistency, because I was always trying to correct slightly. I was always trying to be like, no, I need to do something slightly different. I need to be a little bit fuller. So within 1 over 6 balls, I would have 5 different thoughts at the top of my mark based on what had just happened previously. So I wasn't really aware that all those thoughts were going through my head. So him asking me that question about what is actually in a non-judgmental way going through your head after you bowl a ball really helped me to understand that actually sometimes you look at other bowlers and you just want them to do a job for the team. You know, you just like run in and bowl 6 dots and everyone will be happy. Even if you go for 2 singles, everyone's still happy. You know, like you just bid it generally in the right area. You don't have to be perfect every single ball. But in my head, when I look at my own bowling, I'm like, I've got to be perfect every ball. So that was really, you know, a useful question, not necessarily a piece of advice, but a question I got asked.
Yeah.
It's quite common that, like, you see a lot of young bowlers bowling in games and they focus so solely on the process, like when they're at the top of their mark rather than getting in a battle with a batter. Like, it's such a common thing because that's you go into a net thinking, am I getting my left side down the wicket? Am I bowling that on fourth stump? It's such a common thing, but like it's not something you ever get. Do you ever get told to look at when you're like 18? Yeah. Everyone's like, "Are you bowling with the perfect action? Are you doing are you getting the most out of it?" They don't say go and knock us off stump out of the ground by doing this, that, and the other, like tactics.
Well, no, they do. They ask you all those questions in training, so you train with all these processes in mind. But then when you get to a game, they're like, forget all that, and then
that's what I mean.
focus
like,
on the
it's
competition.
not like
but you're like,
it's hard to like train in the net because you're told all these processes. Like, oh, you're falling away a bit, and I'm like, I'm trying to get him out. Like, and then you get into a natural habit of thinking about your process, like going into a game. Yeah. When you cross that white line, you should be ultimately just trying to take 10 wickets. Like for a team, as a team.
But that's also, you need to practice like that sometimes as well. And I think that sometimes people don't practice with that same mentality of like, okay, are you thinking, a match? Yeah. How are you getting him out? Like that should be what your practice is focusing on.
It might be your best mate in the nets, but are you going to hit him in the face? Like, it doesn't. You don't.
It's funny how you both sort of mentioned like sort of mental advice, like looking after your mental side of the game was a big thing for you both, rather than like because cricket obviously requires a lot of technique and physical skill, and like, you know, batting, you could say a bit of advice would be about your stance or something, or bowling action for you, Abby. But it's funny how you both mentioned something to do with, you know, your mindset and your mental approach to the game, rather than just shows actually how much cricket is played in the mind. And we do need a certain amount of skills. You do need to have all the basics, but actually what goes on in your head and what you're thinking about, like you said, I'd be keeping it simple. That's what the best players do, in my opinion, is keep it simple.
It's all mental, isn't it, mate? Literally.
Yeah. Right. To say something that makes a lot of sense with what you guys just said now. I was speaking to a mate of mine back who used to play for Bengal in the Ranji Trophy, and we were having a chat during lockdown. So I said to him, over the years, all the coaches that you've had, who is the best one you think? So he named a guy called Paras Mambre, who played a few test matches for India before, and he's a guy from Mumbai, and he's quite a respected coach. And so I asked him, why? Why was Mambre the best coach you've had? He said no one did what he had done, and the amount of confidence he gave us as a squad was the result of us going and playing 2 Ranji Trophy finals in 2 consecutive years. So I said, what did he do? He said, when he got the team, he went and sat with every player. Okay. He sat with every player and he took literally pressure off from every player in the way he went to the openers and he said, right, what I want from you is not hundreds. What I want you to do is just play the new ball. Literally, you just play the new ball. So make sure you are batting for at least 15-20 overs. This is what he spoke to the openers. He said no one is going to get out after he gets set purposely. Yeah. But instead of focusing the mind on I have to get 100 or whatever, he just took it on play the new ball off, see the new ball off. The middle order, he went and he said, I don't care how many runs you get. The only thing you are looking for is a partnership. Okay. So again, he took the pressure off the middle order like that. He went to the lower order and he said, this is what I want you to do. And this is the longer format. He said, when you go into bat, I don't expect you to score any runs. So you just defend. Let the batsman who's with you, okay, score. And in doing that, you will automatically get balls in your slots, which you score off. Okay. And he said the whole thing. Then he came to the bowlers and he said, right, you are my opening bowlers. I don't care how many wickets you get, but one has to play the holding role and one has to play the role of the attacker. You decide who's going to do that. But if you are doing the holding role, then you don't go bowl 4 balls and try something, right? So you are bowling 6-3, you make sure you are going at 2 or something like that. You're not going to leak 4-5. So he said he made it, broke it down in such little chunks that he took the pressure of the bigger target completely from them. And he said it was so relaxing to play. He said fielding, he made us work like dogs on fielding and catching. He said the catching we did, the whole of the Ranji Trophy season, we didn't get catches like that. It was like, oh, this is easy. We've done it so many times, the height or distance or whatever. He said it was unbelievable. But the main thing he got out of that was, he said, when a batsman, say, is thinking hundreds, okay, you go and score 60, you're still not happy. Okay. But because his role, he had changed the role of the batsman to opening batsman, see the new ball off. Number 3, 4, get a 100 partnership. So everyone was thinking that I am contributing or I am successful in the role that has been assigned to him. And that was lifting the general confidence of the side,
Yeah.
because they were all hitting the targets they were, asked to hit, rather than, we all know as batsmen, you're not going to get hundreds every day. You're not going to get 5 wickets every day as a bowler. But then you go into deflated zone. Oh, I'm not performing. I'm not doing this. But he completely took that out. So you were actually increasing your confidence every day, because you are more likely to hit your targets because the targets had been brought down. And obviously, if someone is getting set, he's not going to throw his wicket away every time in a first class setup, right? Or when you're bowling well, you you bowl a spell where you're really bowling well, something is going to happen, or it might happen at the other end because you build up the pressure. Someone is going to crack on the other end. So I think I learned that because personally, I was also always setting big targets, and then you fail and you then go down. And so that was something which you said, makes a lot of sense.
We'll move on to the next one. What's been your sort of biggest disappointments you guys have experienced in your career so far, and how did you overcome them?
I think for me, what's tricky one, because I don't have a full answer as such. So my last season at Sussex was kind of frustrating / disappointing, because for me, I feel like I'd built up so many years of playing in the second team that I was like ready. I felt like I was as ready as anyone to go and perform. And I started off my first few games. I played 5 list day games and 5 championship games. And I started off my first couple of list day games and performed quite well. My first game was at Lords, was on TV, like bowled nicely, didn't go for too many runs, got a wicket, had a good game. We won the game, blah, blah, blah. And somehow towards the last couple of games, something slightly shifted in I think it was partly my action, partly, maybe I wasn't doing enough kind of correction work to make sure I was as on it as I was kind of at the start of the season, and kind of things fell off a little bit. And then I kind of took that into some of the early Red Bull games, where my consistency started to lose a bit of consistency, and I really struggled with figuring out how to get it back, because I was like, at the start of the season, I was gold. Everything was, I could look at the spot on the pitch where I wanted to bowl the ball and be 95% confident that I would land it roughly in that area. And then as we got towards, the season was going on, and there's a couple of games, and I was realizing that I was like, okay, look, I'm aiming down off stump channel and I'm chucking it down the leg side. Okay, that's weird. What's like, something's different now. Okay, I was telling myself bowl it fuller, and then I was bowling short balls. Like, something's changed, and I couldn't figure out what to do about it. But the biggest thing that I kind of regret is that I wasn't able to like ask for help at that point where I could have done something about it. And that was the thing that made, which I kind of look back on and say, I wish I could have done differently, is that I really didn't think it was anything major, but what I allowed to happen was that I was aware it was like the final season of my contract. I was aware that, all these other background things started to turn up in my head, which again were unrelated. I was like, I need to perform. If I don't turn around, a good performance, I'm not going to get picked. That could be the end of my season. That could be, the end of my contract. All of these things started to play in my head, which again, just they're unhelpful thoughts, but it doesn't stop you having them. And it took until maybe like August when I'd got dropped at that point, and there was back in the second team, and there was a couple of other bowlers doing well on the first team, so I was like looking like it's a long way back into the side from where I am. And at that point I was finally had a kind of call with my old coach and managed to talk things through, and he essentially asked me a set of questions which I gave myself via talking to him the answers, because they're all there. And he'd known me for so many years. He's like, all the answers. And he just kind of, I just explained to him the situation. He asked me the question and I gave him the answers. And then he's like, well, you just answered your own question. What the problem is, you know what to do, blah, blah, blah. And and I kind of really wish I'd had that conversation, as soon as things had started to go from being exactly where I wanted them to being a little bit off. And instead of, I think maybe it was some level of ego or pride or just like thinking, oh, I'll sort it out myself, I'll figure it out, and not being able or willing to kind of ask for help. And a fear factor where, I didn't want to reveal to, the coaches or whatever that I was a little bit, I was struggling a little bit, even though it was obvious because the numbers were there. People could see that I'm not bowling where I want to bowl the ball, so I'm going for more runs, blah, blah, blah. So people can see that. It's that I was still like, somehow it was like, if I reveal that I'm not quite on it and I need to figure something out to the coaches, then maybe they'll use that as an excuse to drop me for the next game. And I mean, in context, I was getting picked and getting dropped. It was kind of, it's not an unreasonable thing to think, but it's like, it goes back to that level of trust and relationship that you kind of have. And knowing where to find it from. So the second, this is where I say the second half of the question is hard to answer about how did I overcome it or resolve it. Is like, well, in the cricketing context, as it was by the point there where I managed to kind of figure things out and start bowling well again towards the end of the season. Like late August, September, I started bowling well again. But by that point, the season was pretty much done. I was aware that I wasn't gonna have a contract at Sussex anymore, so it was a case of going to be trying to find something elsewhere. So it was like the options had narrowed down, so my opportunity to like do something about it was no longer there. So difficult to say how to overcome it, but that's what I learned over the course of that year,
that bad period. Fynn?
Oh, muted.
That is a classic. Welcome to Fynn. The hardest would obviously be when I was at Sussex and I got released. I was 20 and I'd sort of, as I said before, put all my eggs in one basket. It was a very long road back. The way I dealt with it was very, very different. I went over to Australia and had sort of like a good time over there. Just didn't really focus on cricket, just focused on having fun, like going out with some friends, which I hadn't really been able to do consistently. Obviously being involved with cricket for so long. So it was sort of like I was living like an 18-year-old when I was 20. Living like I just got my license for the first time and my ID, and I could go out, do what I wanted. So I just had a bit of fun, relaxed, took everything in my stride a bit, and then came back and played club cricket in the UK that following season, and sort of a realisation that I'd fallen out of love with the game a bit by being a professional. It had just turned into a job rather than the hobby that everyone starts off playing sport. It was a hobby, it was fun. And I had a season at East Grinstead where we did really well. We won the league, we won got to the semi-final of the National Cup. Everything was sort of going really well in club cricket. I was having fun. Me and Raj standing at first and second slip, having conversations. And yeah, it's sort of like as I spoke to Raj the other day, and we were talking about the game against Billingshurst, so he sort of just said it would be a shame if you gave this up. It'd be a shame if you gave up the game and didn't take it forward. And funnily enough, about 2 weeks later, I remember the MCC young cricketers rang me up and just asked if I wanted to play a couple of games. Towards the back end of that 2017 season, I think it was. And then I signed for them in 2018, and that was when I sort of found my love for it again, like that season with East Grinstead and getting back into it and playing second 11 cricket again because I'd fallen out of love with it for a good year. And yeah, that realisation that it was fun again and I was just playing cricket because I was a kid and enjoying it, and those feelings came back. So that's how I sort of dealt with that. And then obviously on the back of that, I've ended up now playing at Derbyshire and playing first class cricket again. Obviously there's a lot of hard work that went into that behind the scenes. Obviously the training and stuff and the love for the game did mean that I was enjoying my training a lot more. I was waking up early and going to the ground before everyone else. I was the last person to leave because of loving it and then just enjoying it, which was a big contrast to how I was when I was at Sussex. I was sort of just ticking boxes because I wasn't really enjoying myself. I was just there, tick a box, make sure I was at training, ask the right questions to the coach, so it looks like I'm into it. But
yeah,
part of me that wasn't really there. So that's sort of how I dealt with that. It was just more like relax. As I said before, find that exterior
enthusiasm. Yeah,
like the exterior thing that you want outside of the game, like playing golf, going and cooking, going and whatever, like something that you just focus on outside of the game, and that all sort of all fell into place, I think.
I think when you came and told me that day, and I didn't know who was more disappointed. At that point, I think I was more disappointed than you were that you were going to give up the game. And I just kept thinking, why he's too young to do it. And
I remember you like, oh, I've got these contacts. You can go over and play in the US. You can go over and play there. You can go and play this. And I was like, Raj, I don't want to play. I don't want to play cricket. And you were like, what?
I was like thinking, how is this guy? He's so young. This is not the time. He can play. And why is he going to give up? It just wasn't gelling with me. And that's why I had that conversation with you, because to be honest, the first time I saw you was at Taunton. And one thing I really pride myself is if I see a guy, I can say that whether this guy is going to go up the ladder or not. I can more or less, I'll get it right about 75-80% of the time. And first time I saw you, right, you were playing an under 13 game in Taunton, and you bowled your first spell and you had a niggle and you had come out, right? And the game got
13-year-old with a niggle.
yeah,
I've got the body of a 50-year-old, mate. You know that.
he came out and the game got tight and we needed someone to block off 4 overs from one end. And I didn't say anything to you because you were lying down on the side, and I just looked at you and you looked at me and he said, yeah, I'll go back. Almost you took the cue, right? And
just knew you were going to have a go at me, otherwise, Raj. That's
but that
I'm going.
That meant a lot to me. I said, nah, he's got something different. Okay, so at 13 and all that, you see, more or less everyone is on the same page. But that to me was making a different statement that I want it when the chips are down. I want to do it under a bit of pressure, right? Not in a comfortable situation. So I think when you said to me that I'm going to give up, I've just been released or whatever, and I'm thinking, why? Why do you want to give up? Just go and score 400s in the league and you just show the back handle. That would be my natural response.
yeah.
I might have had a bad year, but that doesn't mean I'm a bad player. But so that you're going to give up was really a shock for me at that point. That's why I remember we were just for 1.5 hours. I was like badgering you in the slips.
I was, yeah, and afterwards, mate. Don't forget after the game.
Yeah, you and who is that? You sat outside the clubhouse and we were having a beer outside the clubhouse.
Leo, I think it was Leo Clamish.
No, not Leo. It was Turner, Archie Turner.
Archie, yeah.
Archie Turner. We sat outside and we were having that conversation. I think you really wanted me to naff off at that point because I was.
I was like, Raj, I want to go out. A couple of beers deep.
Well, one quick one, which is a slightly this is a difficult question to answer. We won't be able to really go into it in any depth. It's just what Finn's just been talking about, and a little bit what I've been talking about, is how actually in different kind of team environments, how you can feel so different. Like when you're in a team, the environment where you feel like your wants and your needs and your goals fit into the teams, and you're all in the same boat and everyone's rowing in the same direction. You want it's, and especially when you put that into professional context, how it can affect you and even your aspirations and your kind of career. It can, how it can be so different when you're in a team environment that you feel supported in versus when you're not. And there is an element of the individual, some people will just want to succeed at, and be the best in spite of everything, whether their teammates are terrible, whether their coaches, aren't great and they don't get on with them or whatever. And they will, nevertheless, they have that inner core of self-belief where they're like, I'm going to, pursue and make a success of my career regardless, because they have that confidence and their belief in their own ability that they can say, it doesn't matter what everyone else thinks, I'm still going to make it. But I know myself, I'm not one of those. And I know there's plenty of people who aren't as, single-minded as that. And for those people, I feel like they feel the difference between an environment where, even with club cricket, if you're having a good time and you all want to win and you all want to put in, and even if you lose, everyone's actually relatively happy because everyone did what they wanted to do. They came, they put in all their effort. They actually, tried their best to do the job. And if it didn't go well, in the professional environment, it's a similar atmosphere, but it's just heightened, whereby it can be an environment where if everyone's believing that you're going in the right direction, you can be really positive, and encouraging place. And like Fynn said, that's what brings the motivation and inspiration to be like, what, that's the luck as a professional. You can turn up and work from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. on your game if you want to. Like that's the opportunity you have as a professional cricketer, which obviously you don't have in club cricket. But people will only do that when they really believe and they buy into the direction that the team is going in, and and they have the right kind of level of support. But in a team environment where they don't see that there's any future for them, or they don't see that they that there's the next step that they want to achieve with their lives or with their careers, they fit into what the direction that the team is going in, then those people start to disengage and they start to drift away and they start to find excuses, or they'll tick boxes, or they'll just say whatever is needed to be said in order to just get out the door and get out the changing room and go home, because they're not really invested in it anymore. And I particularly, I think noticed that, and I think that not in terms of maybe captains and coaches and everyone in general, I'm not sure that sometimes there's enough attention paid to what is actually going on. There's an assumption that everyone in the dressing room is just in the same boat. But that's why you see differences between two teams playing each other on the same day who might be equally matched, and one team is just together and they just want to win, but they want to win and they want to enjoy each other's company for the sake of themselves. They don't just want to win because it means beating the other team, and the other team will be theoretically together, theoretically also wanting to win, but they're all individuals pulling in slightly different directions, and they don't want to win for the team. They're all kind of maybe pulling their own individual goals. And as a result, the team doesn't end up winning. There's all sorts of that. So you talk about 1%ers. And for me, that's probably the combination of so many different little factors, which if nobody pays attention to it, it can be the difference, I think, between, teams that win regularly and enjoy winning and enjoy each other's company, to teams that really, they lose that.
I think cricket, yeah, Abby, spot on. I think cricket could be it's fine margins because it's an individual game within a team game.
Yeah.
So it's very well. It's very well that type of individual that scores no runs every week, but is happy with winning a game is a difficult. I think you got to be a certain type of person to enjoy that. Whereas cricket is everyone's obsessed with their own batting, their own bowling, their own stats, their averages. The culture in cricket can change to an individual sort of team very quickly when everyone's got, like you said, their own agendas. Like you might have been dropped from the first team, you want to get back into it. You might be a young player trying to get yourself in the shop window. You need to perform. And especially because like you're saying, you've been around a lot of like second team games, so everyone in that dressing room has a different agenda. Whereas in a club team, everyone's got sort of similar goal, haven't they? Really, you got maybe a couple of overseas players who might be different, or you might have a pro in your team, but the club environment is a bit more sort of in it together, committed. Whereas that professional one, like you said earlier, like you're thinking about your contract, you're thinking about you open the bowl in the second game with someone else. If he gets a five and I don't, he's in over me next week. So it's sort of that.
Sure, I wouldn't make any hard and fast
cricket
rules about it though, because I've seen different club teams, that that where it doesn't work, and I've seen and professional teams on the other side, you could say they spend far more time with each other's company. People were like teammates for years, so they become very close friends. So in the same, so a bit of both. I wouldn't say it's a hard and fast rule. I think it's just the pressures are heightened in the professional sport because you're adding money into the situation. You're adding career and reputation into the situation, which in the club cricket doesn't play such a role. And anytime you add money and career reputation onto any social situation, of course, it's going to increase the tensions.
Yeah.
Another question I would like to ask you both is there anything you would do differently in your journey till now if you started again? And the second one is anything you would change in the cricket structure or system here? Two questions punched in one.
In terms of doing things differently, I think something similar to what I was just talking about would be I spent a lot of time playing cricket in my own head as I was growing up, because I think that the thing is the flip side of the thing I would definitely not change is my approach growing up was to learn something from every session. I was like, given that I'm here and I'm in front of the coach and they're trying to teach me something and I'm here for the next 2 hours or whatever, I may as well pay attention and try and learn something. Like I try to learn something all the time. I think that really helped me and help me go forward. And coaches like that, the coaches saw that, oh, I'm coachable, blah, blah, blah. But on the flip side, I would say that then I didn't pay enough attention to like what I was getting, what I wanted, what I was getting out of it, and what my motivations were in terms of expressing myself. And I was so end up too, like, was it about winning? Was it about enjoying the company of my teammates? I didn't really think about that too much. So I end up taking that same learning mentality a lot in my own head, maybe onto the pitch or into training mode, where in a game I'd be so focused on what the coach had been trying to teach me about my bowling in the last few weeks that we've been working on trying to bowl the away swinger or the in swinger, that I was just not really paying attention to the game. And so I think that would be definitely something, if I could go back and alter how I thought about cricket and all of the matches I played from the age of like 16 or whatever, to being like, to just really remembering like the whole thing is about contributing to your team winning a game, and like keeping it that simple, and whatever else helps you to get to that point, all well and good, but fundamentally like kind of looking at it through that angle. I think that would have helped me a little bit more, have maybe more confidence in terms of like the team environment, to be able to challenge like myself, to challenge other people, When I'm so focused on myself and my own skills, my own individual, actually what other people did or didn't do made very little difference to me, because I'm still worrying about, like, did I, get my bowling action right? You know what I mean? But when you're thinking about did the team, you actually start paying a lot more attention to your teammates and to, and that kind of thing. I think took me quite a bit, maybe a longer time to develop than maybe some of the other players. Like in a having thought about it way. Like everyone obviously is always trying to win games for their team, but like having thought about it consciously. What was the second part of the question again, Raj?
Anything
what would I change?
Structure or system you would like to change?
I'm not sure. I'll let Fynn answer. I'll come back.
Okay.
I think what I do differently is more about my training, skills specific. When I was younger, I don't think I had a great understanding of what I was actually trying to achieve, with certain technical things or whatever. Like, whereas now I have an idea of exactly what I want to work on whenever I set foot in the indoor centre. I know exactly what I want to get out of my day. I'm like, right, okay, today I want to do this, and if I don't quite nail it, why? Blah blah blah, and make sure that I have that mindset. I think before I'd sort of walk into a session maybe when I was like 15, 16 and just do whatever the coach wanted. And he'd say, oh yeah, we're working on this today as a group. And it might be something that I was actually the best at and I was actually really good at, but because the coach wanted to see it, you just go along with it anyway. And there's no issue with obviously improving your strengths and making them super strengths. Like obviously that's something you want to do as a player, but at a time where I think I could have worked on a few other things in my game, I was actually working on the things that I didn't really need to work on at that time, just to make sure the coaches were happy. So I think if I had the chance, I'd probably learn a bit more about, obviously you learn a bit more about your game as you grow older anyway. But I think if I just had a broader understanding of what I was actually trying to get out of that 5-month period between October and March, if I had a good understanding of what, okay, this is my outcome at the end in March. On March the 20th, I want to be able to do this, and then have loads of mini goals in between that I could tick off after each session. I think if I was doing that a bit more consistently, then I'd probably be a couple of years ahead of where I am now. And they're just small things that at the time, obviously, they don't matter too much to you as an individual. You're thinking, oh, okay, I didn't quite nail that today. But over the course of 3 or 4, 5, 6 years, they build up and you losing time on other people. So that would be what I'd change about how I grew up and what I did at a young age. I think I'd have a broader understanding of what I believed I needed to work on. In terms of the county game, all the setups, I think what I'd change the most is probably reducing the amount of players in the system, in terms of I wouldn't have an under 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I'd get rid of that and just do like maybe every 2 years. I think that's 2 years, even 3 years, because then that means that players who are playing the same age group, then the next year they have to be better than the people who are in the year above them, and challenging the people who are older. I think the more players you have in the system, the more get lost to it.
100%.
So that would be probably the biggest thing that I'd change, is probably limiting the amount of players that go through the system. Obviously they will change throughout, but yeah, just probably limiting the age group setups, and just minimalising the amount of people who go through, and making sure the ones that do go through are very, very good. When they come to sort of the age of 17, 18, they've already played against bigger, stronger, older people, rather than having to do it in league cricket.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I was thinking about what I would change, and I think it's just reflecting on experience. I think I've learned most from the periods where the group of players has basically had the opportunity to lead things and to learn from their mistakes kind of themselves in a way, which is like less, especially in kind of youth cricket, a little bit being a bit less coach-led. I think there was always a culture of, whatever you did in the context of the team was only relevant insofar as when you sit down afterwards in the dressing room, whether the coach tells you did well or not. And so there was a lack of accountability to each other as teammates, and there was a lack of thinking about what we're doing, because the 11 players are out there on the pitch trying to win the game. The coach is watching on the sidelines. None of the 11 players are caring about the other 10 members of their team. All of them are only caring about what the coach is going to tell them afterwards. And obviously, I think there's a personal element to that, and coaches have a role to kind of educate. But I think that sometimes you learn most from when the reins get handed over to you and say, right, okay, it's your turn, it's your time to lead, and your time to decide what you want to do. And I think that's where people reveal through their own choices, like whether what they're made of in a way, whether they're in it for the team, whether in it for the, do you know what I mean? And instead of having it being too reliant on like whether the coach tells you did the right things or not. And I think the coaches still have a very important role to play.
I think that comes down to more the type of coach that I do. Maybe the coach that are in the system rather.
I'm just reflecting a bit on like how I felt like I learned faster sometimes from the times when the responsibility was handed over to us to be accountable to ourselves as teammates, because we all started to, initially it was weird, we all didn't really know what was going on. We were like, okay, well, the coach isn't giving us much feedback, why is the coach here, like what we're doing? But then over time we became more accountable to ourselves and say, right, actually, as first slip, you can tell the bowler like to sort his lines and lengths out, because at the moment he's trying too many different things, instead of having to wait for the coach on the sidelines to yell it out to someone, be like, bloody hell, sort your lines and lengths out, why are you bowling 7 balls and over, like, come on, do you know what I mean? So it was like, it became an internal, everyone started to pay that much more attention. So I think that is a little bit of a to more of a coach mindset thing rather than a general structural thing. But structurally, it's a difficult question, I think.
I would agree with what you are saying when you got players who have got a general understanding of the game, but when you are doing lower age groups or that sort of stuff, especially in England, the natural understanding of the game is not that high, because people don't watch that much of cricket as much as they watch other sports. Okay, so it's very difficult balance for the coach to get also, because that if I hand it over now, that this game is going to go all over the place. At the same time, the coach has to understand when those players are ready to take over. So that's something completely on the coach to understand. And if the players are of that standard, that yes, now it is okay. You know what I mean? Right. I'll give you an example to get this. It wasn't a coach thing, right? I was playing a T20 for Grinstead. I think it was in Finn's last year, right? And Will Adkin was captaining the side. And we started our first over of the power play, and I was a third man, right? And the guy, the way he played the first ball, I signaled to Will that should I come up and long on go back, right? So Will just kept say wait. Next ball went over long on, and Will said come up. So I'm just giving you an example, but Will is ready by that time. Will is an adult by that time. Okay, so but there is that understanding I'm talking about, that which he obviously had. Now you want that in case of a 15-16-year-old as a coach, if we are going to play serious cricket. So it's, if you see that it's happening in majority of the boys in the side, then it's okay to hand over. But when you don't see that and you have to spoon feed quite a few, then it's difficult, if you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Like the current Worth side, I have got about 5 guys who can do stuff. So I don't have to run around the boundary. When Theo was captaining the side, I knew I could let it go on him because he would have an understanding of what he was doing. But I've had people who have had no understanding. Right. So then you literally can't let them go. Then suddenly you will see there is no point or no extra cover and fielders in weird places. Just giving you an example. But once you got 5, 6 guys on the same page and they know what they're doing, then obviously I would 100% agree with you that it makes learning a lot more faster, because then you are accountable for your own decision and you're talking to each other and saying, right, this needs to be done. This is the length you want to bowl. This is where you go. It becomes a lot more easier as well.
Obviously Finn and Abby, you've both played high standard cricket, and obviously Finn, you're playing for Derbyshire now. What is your best advice to young cricketers that want to get to county level?
Mine would solely be to enjoy the process of it. Don't rush it, just enjoy it. I think a big thing would be setting small, reachable targets, achievable targets, rather than just purely focusing on, by the age of 20, I want to be playing first class cricket. Because that's everyone's goal, really, if you're playing cricket seriously. But I'd definitely say, A, enjoy the game and enjoy the process, and B, set small achievable goals that you can keep ticking off on the way. Because otherwise it becomes a very long journey that then sometimes becomes very tough. So that would be my advice.
I think Finn's made a very good point. I think I would add to that, I don't think most people grow up dreaming of just playing county cricket. I think most people grow up dreaming of playing international cricket and, becoming Test cricket and becoming the best players in the world. And I think it's good to have that dream. And in that context, county cricket becomes the natural, like the step on the ladder which you need to be on in order to take you to that next step. So, but I think exactly what Finn said. Remember that if you don't make it, if you don't make it to Test cricket, then maybe make it to county cricket. But take account of those small steps on the way and learn from the whole journey. I totally agree with Finn's point. There was another point I was going to say. I've just forgotten it. And yeah, you kind of, you learn by setting yourself a target, and remember how nowadays we can research far more than we were ever able to before about what it actually is like, the lifestyle of those who live the lives that we dream, that we want to be like. And actually, even in the very day-to-day, mundane, like personal sense, actually now you can go to YouTube and you can find diaries and video diaries and blogs from professional cricketers all the way around the world, and they can actually tell you what they do with their everyday lives. Sometimes in a more than just the glamorized sense of your whole life is just spent, hitting sixes and the crowd screaming, and like that's the 1% of what you see. But actually, there's a lot more. You talk about like living in bubbles. You talk about spending months away from home. Actually, you can get you can read autobiographies as well of the people who have done really well. And so try as much as you can, and ask people if at all possible. People reach out all the time on like Twitter and all sorts to find out more, like what it is that like in a reality, and make sure you factor that into your account of like, I want to be a professional cricketer, I want to be a county cricketer. Like having a picture of what their day-to-day lives is like, will help you calibrate your is that your dream, or or is it international cricket, or is it something else?
Add something with that, Abby. I used to give this analogy, and I really like what you said, that if you dream about international cricket, it's a lot easier to get through, because I take it as, if you're going from London to Manchester, as Manchester you're a destination, right? You will have to fill up somewhere. You got to stop at a services somewhere to fill up, or go to the loo, or whatever, have a coffee or whatever, right? But that services is not your destination. Right. Now,
Mm.
the similar thing in cricket also. Right. Playing first class cricket is not your destination. Yeah, we have to go through that because without doing that, we can't go to the next level. And if mm, players who want to go higher think on those lines, straight away their own work ethic and the way they see things are going to change. And why I say this is when we were growing up, no one in our batch was thinking, I have to play Ranji Trophy. Right, that wasn't the goal. Ranji Trophy, we all knew we had to play Ranji Trophy to go further. Right, but the goal was much higher. The goal was how do you get the, you know, um, blue shirt
For
or
India.
the star on your cap. That was the goal. Whether you make it or not, it's later. But that's the goal. The moment you have your goal there, then the whole journey, the work, the commitment, the sacrifices, everything starts falling into place. But otherwise, it becomes quite difficult also. And it becomes difficult for another group of people, especially the ones like you who are very bright, unlike me. Okay, so for me, I had to play cricket. For you, if the three lions is not your goal, you might be thinking, why the hell am I doing this? Because I can go and make triple the amount of money than playing county cricket. It's natural to come through that way. Okay, but the moment it is playing for the country, it is a big picture, the whole thing flips on its head. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Get a picture of what that lifestyle is like and decide if that's for you. That's what I was to summarize. But yeah, no, absolutely agree.
Mr. Rivers, you in?
So Raj, so when did you realise that Abi and Fynn were gonna go and make it as first class cricketers? And what were the parameters that you used to help create that for them?
Um, for batsmen, I have a few things, right? When you see a young kid, 13, 14, the main things, there are about four things you look at. How is that person's basic technique? How is that guy against a short ball at his armpit? Does he get inside or does he back away? Right, I'm talking batsman now. Third one, to an away going spinner, can that person stay in the crease and drive well between mid off extra cover without coming down the track? Can he do that? Okay. And the next would be, how is this guy when the pressure is on? How is he at none for two rather than 150 for two? And if he fails, how's his comeback? That's what I basically look for. For bowlers, for me, you get a feel of how, for a fast bowler as such, how quick is he potentially going to be? Because at 13, he's not going to be bowling at 85. Okay. But does this guy have the potential to go quick? Okay. How consistent is his or repeatable is his action? And thirdly, what's his attitude like? Now, I will be very honest here, right? Abby, I don't want to be negative, but when you started, right, and you used to come with Harry and Jeffrey, at that point, I would put my hand up and say, I didn't think that he was really focused to go and play at a professional
Yeah,
level.
no, I'd
It
agree.
maybe you were inside, maybe you were inside, but I didn't get that coming from
No, I
you.
was there to have fun. I
So
enjoyed it.
yeah,
I wasn't like,
yeah.
this is what I'm going to do.
So I think yours changed after about 15, 16. But say when you saw Fynn, as I said earlier, it was a bit different to a standard 13-year-old. I saw Tom Haynes at 12, and we went on a trip to India. I took Tom on a trip to India, and I was 100% sure this guy's going to play first class cricket. There was no doubt about that because he ticked all the ones what I spoke about. Callum Jackson was another one. You saw it, and I those would be the 5 parameters I would say. But I think when you are in the game for a long time, you get a feel of it as well. That yeah, he's got it now. He just needs to keep working at it. That was a reason why when he said that he was going to give up, I was so, oh no, don't give it up, don't give it up. Right, because you can see that it's different. And someone doing it for a hobby and someone doing it, where your life matters on this is very different because the pressure is completely different at that point. Right, when you know that if I don't score in the next 2 games, it's going to be difficult to put things on the table compared to, oh, if I fail, doesn't matter. When that situation happens, you're not going to even hit a half volley because you're under so much of pressure. You're not going to be playing a normal game. But if someone has got that ability to handle the pressure, it shows. That's why you see, because my idea of spinners is very basic. My idea of spin is when your teammates are ready to stand at silly point and short leg, you are a spinner. As long as your teammates are not ready to stand at silly point or short leg, you're just trying to bowl spin. Because that's the consistency you want, that those two guys feel safe under the lid or without the lid, whatever. Yeah, that's minimum basic level. Once you can get that, you can work on it. But that's the first thing.
Right, I think that comes to a conclusion of another very interesting podcast. Thank you, Abi. That was really good. Thank you, Fynn, as well. Both much. We really appreciate you guys coming on today. That gave us, I think, us all and people who are listening to this podcast a really good insight of going up to that next stage and that difference between the lower levels and the high levels. That was really interesting to hear. So we'll be back next Sunday, 7 o'clock for the next podcast. Thank you for listening.